Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Sara Lihz from Sassy's LLC, and today we're going to make 2 hidden message cards using products from Pixi Dust Designs. So for the first card, we're going to use the Christmas Gnome Mug set. Look how cute this is. And then for the second one, we'll use the Reindeer Mug. When I first discovered Pixi Dust around the fall of last year, so shortly after the company launched, it was the mugs that drew me in. They are absolutely amazing. So here, this is the beard that I have cut from some white cardstock, and I'm using a very light gray marker, Ohuhu CG200. And first I went over the etched lines that the die cuts into the beard. And then I'm going to take that same marker and flick from the outside towards the middle. I'm just following the curve of the etched lines that were already cut into the die. Then I'm going to go over one more time with CG2, which is very slightly darker. They're both cool grays and pretty light. And again, I'm flicking from the outside toward the center. So it's pretty white through the middle, but it feels more like a beard. Then on the mug itself, I'm using that CG200, and I am going over again the sort of etched lines that are on the mug itself. It's like a droopy hat, right? So I'll go over that once with my light marker, and then I'll take that CG2 and the bullet tip and I'll go over one more time. You could skip that, right? But I do think a little bit of ink blending around the edges helps to give the illusion of roundness to our mug. So I wanted to bring that in just a little bit to give this a little extra depth. I'm going to add on my beard to the mug base. This comes together really, really quickly. And quite frankly, it's so cute. And there's great etched detail in these dies. So if you don't want to ink blend or marker or any of that, you can skip it. You can skip it. That's not that important. I love them so much, and I wanted to see what I could do with them. So I've attached the beard and the nose, and then there are 2 feet that go on either side, and they just fit right in there, right? The mug is an excellent base for that. Piece of cake. To create some contrast with our teal mug, I have a piece of pattern paper in some bright pink. It is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I will just cover my card base with that pattern paper. And then I have a couple mats and layers to help draw your eye to the focal point of our card. So this mirror cardstock is 3 1/2 by 4 3/4, and some shimmer card that's 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. And I will layer those right on top of each other. I'm using my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive since that mirror card is super slick, and sometimes I'm not patient enough to use my Barely Art glue with that, but that's okay. And then that's going to layer right on top of our pattern paper in the background. I've used some really thin foam tape. It's 1mm foam tape just to give it a little bit of lift. We're going to have a little lift with the mug as well, so I didn't want to go too crazy here. And I will just center that up and press firmly, and our card base is ready to go. Next, I have a piece of cardstock that's 1 1/2 by 2 5/8 of an inch, and it's going to fit just perfectly in this slot that the die cuts into our mug. Okay, so I have a little piece of brown cardstock that's your coffee or hot chocolate or whatever's in your mug, and I'm going to go ahead and glue that onto my strip of white cardstock. I have checked the back to make sure that I'm fully contained and that I'm going to be able to create another layer around it, right? We need a little space for that to slide in and out, but it also then functions kind of as a stopper for our hidden message. When I go to add my whipped cream, I'm just going to add the glue straight on to the hot chocolate and that little piece for the hidden message to make sure I don't end up with glue all over everywhere. Do you guys have these days when you're like, I probably glued my cards in my mat? I have them a lot these days. So you can see on the back, there was plenty of extra space around our hidden message. So I have a separate mug that I've cut out, and I'm just going to use my pencil and kind of trace around that little white piece of cardstock. Okay. I just want enough thickness for there to be room for a layer of cardstock to slide in and out behind the mug. So instead of foam tape, I am sliding my scissors in to that slot that we cut at the top of the mug with the die, and then I'll just trim out that rectangle. It doesn't need to look pretty. It just has to be big enough to hold our message. Okay. Then I'm going to add glue all over the remaining sides, right? So I have 4 sides of this. I just created a well in the middle, and I will glue that straight on to the mug that we have decorated. I'm going to be really careful as I'm attaching this. I want to make sure that I'm not accidentally moving it so that I'm gluing that little slot shut. But that works, right? That is all the room I need for my hidden message. I decided to grab another piece of whipped cream from my die, and I'm going to go ahead and glue that onto the back. This is optional. I just felt like it cleaned it up a little bit, right? It made it look a little bit neater. So if people are sort of pulling it out of there and flipping it over, it's going to look nice. Then I'm going to glue this using glue only on those 4 sides onto my card base. I'm going to show you another way to do this using foam tape on the second card. I like how low profile this is, but this one is a little bit harder to slide that message in and out of because there just isn't as much room back there. So I took my pokey tool and I slid it in there, and I'm just going to move it around in there, just loosen it up a little bit. And that helps to get everything started. Once it's been in and out a few times, you don't need to do that. But sometimes to get it in for the first time, right? If all you have is that one extra layer of cardstock, that really helps. So I added some shimmer pen to my whipped cream, and now I'm using some of the other dies that come in the same set to create some decorations for the rest of my card. So I have this little gingerbread man, and it has 2 pieces. So the white kind of shows through the back, so you're not fussing with all those tiny little pieces of icing. But I did want some buttons on there, so I used my white gel pen to add like 3 little buttons down his front. And then I have this little peppermint, so I cut it out of a pink that matches that pattern paper in the background. And I've got kind of 2 places where I want to add those onto my card. And then there are 2 different shapes of stars and some chocolate chips that you can add onto that whipped cream. I feel like this is the best mug to get as your first mug because it has so many extra pieces. They all have some extras. Like the reindeer is going to come with a candy cane, right? So you can add all these little bonus goodies into all of the other mugs too. And it's really, really fantastic. So then I stamped and heat embossed a Merry Christmas and to that same teal cardstock and backed it with that pink cardstock. And I'm looking for where I want to add that. And I decided kind of right here in front, right? Let our gnome hold that. And that finishes up our card, right? We've got a whole bunch of goodies in our whipped cream, and then you'll just pull on that, right? It's a little sturdier because we have 2 layers, and it slides right in and out of our mug for an extra hidden message on top of an otherwise standard A2 card. This reindeer. It is so stinking cute, you guys, and it comes together a little bit faster than the gnome because there isn't any beard to color in or add layers to. All I'm doing is some really quick ink blending on craft cardstock just to create the illusion of roundness. Look at the shape of this mug though, right? This is sort of a classic mug teacup shape. You could do all kinds of things to stretch this die beyond a reindeer, beyond just a Christmas something. So think about that. Like I love this one for the simplicity of the base design. But I'm adding his ears and then the little sort of piece that comes down in the middle and then the pink that goes inside of the ears. Again, there aren't a whole ton of pieces for this one. If you're a little newer at die cutting or layered die assembly, this is a great one to start with. The nose is super cute. It has 2 pieces. So there's a white circle and then the black circle has like a little shine mark cut out of it so that white cardstock will show through there. I'm going to use my tweezers to make sure I get that shine mark right centered at the top. And then for the eyes or eyelashes, again, I felt like my tweezers were really useful to get them in the right spot. I add my little dots of glue and then I'm going to tap it off on the back of my hand just to remove any glue that might ooze out of there. I don't like that showing on my card. I know it dries clear and most people wouldn't notice, but I notice. So I'm picky about it. I'm just picky. Then there are little like pink pieces that I cut out for the cheeks. You could skip that and just ink blend some rosy cheeks on there. That would also be super cute. You should check out the Pixi Dust page for this, the shop. There are wonderful, wonderful cards, great inspiration from the design team using this die, both of these dies, that are they're totally worth checking out. So instead of gluing the hot chocolate or coffee or whatever inside, I wanted to keep this pretty flat. So I am just very loosely sketching in an oval of dark brown in here so that that's going to be completely flat as I'm sliding my secret message in and out. And then here I have my piece of white cardstock. This one measures 1 3/4 by 2 inches. It's a slightly different size than the last one. And you can see as I flip it over, once again, I have room all the way around the outside for that. Since I colored my hot chocolate straight onto my mug, I'm just going to add my whipped cream straight onto my sliding message. That seemed easy enough. Again, I'm kind of creating a stopper with the whipped cream for my mug. So here I am adding another layer of whipped cream onto the back, except I'm adding it too early. So I'm going to add it and then I'm going to take it right back off again, because you can see my little antlers are sitting right there on the side and I forgot to add them. So I'm kind of figuring out how am I going to do this. I'm going to hold it over my reindeer. I want to make sure that I get the placement right, but I don't want to get glue where it doesn't belong. So I'm just going to lay those kind of into the glue that's sticking there, right? And then I will add my other layer of whipped cream on top. So they're sandwiched right in between. I like that second layer of whipped cream for the added sturdiness, since that's what we're pulling on to get our message out of the mug. Okay, so once I have all of that secured down, I can start assembling the rest of my card. I'm adding glue to a piece of pattern paper that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I've just kind of flip-flopped my colors here. So I have that dark teal in the background, and then I have that pop of pink on this matte layer that is 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. I also then have a white piece that is 3 1/2 by 4 3/4, and I stamped Happy Holidays on that one, and I have just heat embossed that using some gold embossing powder. To assemble my card, I am adding my white layer on top of the pink one, and you can see there is just the tiniest little margin around the outside. And then once I get that all adhered, I'm going to glue that directly onto my card base. We're going to use foam tape to pop up the mug, right? Instead of using another layer of cardstock. I wanted to show you a second way to put that together, but I didn't want 2 layers of foam tape. I'm not a double foam tape girl. So this still should be pretty easy to mail if you wanted to. To add the mug, I'm using some temporary tape to make sure that that whipped cream is tucked all the way down to the base of the mug, right? I want to make sure I am not putting foam tape anywhere where that hidden message needs a pocket. I'm just using 1/8" foam strips, and I've pulled the backer paper off of both sides so that I can curve it around some of those little tough angles. And then I will take my hidden message out and add just a little bit of glue to give me a tiny bit of wiggle room when I place this down. It's not going to give me a lot, right? If I wiggle it too much, I'm going to smear glue where I don't want it. My hidden message could get stuck in there. It would be that kind of day for me. But this works beautifully, right? I'm just sort of centering it using the ears as my guide, and at the bottom I'm placing it right above the stitch line on that white piece of cardstock. Then I can slide my whipped cream right back in there, and this card is done. It's super quick and easy. It slides in and out a little bit more smoothly because you have that cushion of the foam tape. You can kind of press into the foam as you're sliding it in and out. I hope you like these 2 cards. I sure had fun making them. Please give this a thumbs up if you like them. Consider subscribing, and I will see you next time.